Ladies and gentlemen, prepare your Oppenheimer memes because it is here, the dev diary for special projects. This video here is unavailable. Don't worry about it. I have a link down below. It will take you straight to this dev diary. By the time you're watching this video, that video will be available. It's really good. They really lay out the whole thing fairly well, much better than I can. So go watch that. Go read the dev diary. It's interesting. But what does it actually say? Well, let's get started. First off, all special projects start where all good things start, in a building. Yes, there are 4 different types of buildings associated with the special projects. They are called facilities. We have the advanced physics, naval engineering, aerodynamics and avionics, and land warfare. All of these are related to their own brand of special projects. You can read what they say, but it's fairly straightforward. I am curious to see if getting more of these gets you a benefit, or if it's just a matter of gotta catch them all. Either way, they can only be built on supply hubs or on naval bases, so they have to be immediately plugged into the network. You can't just build them out into the desert in Nevada and then build a railway going there. For some reason they won't allow that. I guess gameplay balancing reasons, or getting the AI to, actually play nice with the tech. So that is the only way to build them. But once they are built, they look a bit like this. Now, all of this is work in progress. Don't take this as gospel. Work in progress might change, but I get a little bit of an on-map factory there, and you can click it. Well, you could click it. That's the least effective way of getting there. They're also going to add a nice little button up at the top. What is currently the research tab? Gonna get a new icon. If you left click it, you just go to the research tab, and then you can tab between research slots here and experimental facilities, or you could just right click this. But I love that they thought about that. If you just right click instead of left click, you go straight to the experimental facilities tab. It's so great. Now, what does all of this mean? We see facilities, those are the ones you've built and the ones you haven't, available projects, and breakthroughs. You also see that we can assign scientists to a project. Don't worry, we'll get to it. First off, available projects. You have built your facility. What is it going to do? There are a variety of projects out there, and some will be available straight away from the game start. Others will require at least a little bit of basic research. So, for instance, you want to do anything with submarines, special technology, special projects, you're going to have to figure out how subs work first. Then, if you want something very fancy, think intercontinental ballistic missiles, you're going to have to figure out rocketry, and you're going to have to figure out making, nuclear warheads. Now, in theory, you can put a flower pot in an ICBM. It doesn't have to be a nuke, but for the game, they want you to have nukes. So a little bit of research is going to be required. Now, what does all of this do? And they lay it out for you here. There are 2 ways to earn breakthroughs. Let me just set that up for you. And the fastest and most efficient way is by researching related technology. So you want avionic breakthroughs, you have a scientist working on that project, and ideally you're also researching aviation technology. And the more research you do, the more points you generate towards that breakthrough. The scientist also keeps chugging along. It's like getting army experience. Yes, you have the advisor giving you a little bit of army experience, but the main meat and potatoes comes from actually doing, well, in this case, researching. And then once you have achieved that breakthrough, you can use that breakthrough, consider it as currency. Breakthroughs are currency that you can use to start your project. So say you want to research the Ratte or the Landkreuzer, for instance. You have your land warfare facility. You have your scientists assigned to the land warfare facility, trying to figure out how to make this tank bigger because he wants to please the Führer. Meanwhile, you are madly researching your way through the tank tree, and points are ticking up towards the breakthrough. You hit the breakthrough. Wow, boom, we have a mind-boggling thought and think, what if tank? But bigger. Wild. I know, absolutely wild. So you get that one breakthrough, or depending on how all this works, more breakthroughs, I don't know. But you get the breakthrough point, you spend it to start a project, and that project will be, you can select it in the list of available projects, and you can get your Ratte or Landkreuzer. Well, much of this is guesswork. So as you can see here, this is what it looks like when you have a scientist assigned. They're providing, in this case, a 0.04% breakthrough progress I guess, per day, and a 2% research speed for their specific their specific chosen field. For instance, in land warfare facility in Saxony, has Eduard Grotte assigned to it. He has a couple of projects available to him. Can't do any yet because it needs breakthroughs. What he can do is provide you progress towards the breakthrough and a nice bonus for land warfare research. So if you're working on tank stuff, you research it a little bit faster. It's a nice little passive bonus, even if you're not actively going to be looking for massive ratas. I don't know why you wouldn't. The Landkreuzer is amazing, but it will give you a small research buff, which is useful. I think it's a neat little thing, even if you're not going balls to the wall crazy projects. Now, what does a project look like? Well, again, all of this work in progress, but for instance, here we are working on a super heavy howitzer. It's going to take a little time to build your prototype. That is like the working, the proof of concept. The prototype is what you're essentially going to be working on. Time takes by and you'll get events. Sometimes the event will be positive, like, hey, we figure out a new propellant. Now our artillery does a little bit more damage. Or we have a small research bonus for artillery research while we're working on this super heavy howitzer. Or things go a little less great, and it blows up, I guess, maybe, potentially. Your scientist gets experience, much like a spy or a general would, making him a little better at what he's doing. You get countrywide benefits in terms of research, perhaps even production bonuses, or Army XP. I'm not sure if those are involved, but you will get minor bonuses, mostly research related. And as things grind on, eventually you will come to a working prototype. Now, there is also some cost associated with it. First off, you have to build the facility, you have to assign their scientists, you have to do the research, you have to then spend the breakthrough points, and some technologies, because of the cost associated with them, will actively require resources while you're running them. So think of it like I am trying to build my prototype of the Landkreuzer, hypothetical. It's going to require an ungodly amount of steel. Again, hypothetical. So while the project's running, there is a constant need for, say, let's say 8 steel. Your national output of steel now has to assign 8 instead of going to production or trade. It has to be going to your land warfare facility just to be able to build your stupid, magnificent, giant tank. It makes sense. It kind of makes sense. And then obviously, when project completion reaches 100%, the project finishes. Thank God they still know how mathematics works. What is also fun is, like here, if you're working on your nuclear reactor research, you finish it, the project's done, you got your breakthrough, you got your special project, the prototype's done. Hurrah! Not only do you now know how to build nuclear reactors, you actually get one. The state that has the facility in it gets a free reactor. If there are build slots. I mean, there have to be build slots for it to be able to pop up there, but that is one way of getting it there. That is pretty cool. Now, I don't know if this unlocks a build slot to put it in there, or if it needs an available build slot, because many states have, like, say, 20 possible build slots, but only 5 are available to use, and it might unlock the 6th slot and put it in there, or does it need to use one of the 5 that are currently open? I don't know. I guess we'll have to figure that out as we go. And here's super heavy railway project gun. It will not only allow you to build one, but you get one for free. It's your prototype. It is your Dora. That's pretty neat. Another fun fact, you can steal other people's experimental facilities. On the downside, people can steal yours as well. Say you're being let's be positive here. You are invading the Soviet Union as Germany. And in Kiev, the Soviets have a special facility researching some sort of super weapon. You take the facility and you go like, huh, that's cool. You get access to the facility and you can actively use it now, but you also earn a little bit of progress in that project if you don't already have that project completed and you have it unlocked. So it has to be available to you, and then you get a little bit of progress in it because you're basically, I'm gonna steal their notes. Good, we're now ahead. Plus, you also get a little bit of a couple of points towards one of the breakthroughs in that field. Again, you're just stealing their notes and pretending they're yours. Now, of course, these things need scientists. Yes, glorious scientists. I suppose this is going to work very much like spies in in that every country will have access to them eventually. There will be a list to pull from. I assume some will, like the major nations, will have historical ones prepared for them, along with a bunch of generic ones that get randomized, much like spies do. And then depending on the level of that scientists, they provide a certain benefit to their chosen field of research. Like looking at this, Visa Ems has Heinrich Fokker, who's really good at airplane stuff. Peter Adolf Thiessen, good at nuclear stuff. They have different levels, so they provide different types of research bonuses. Yeah, it does look like these are German scientists, and I am beyond myself. I am absolutely furious that a man named Kurt Tank is an avionics researcher. You were literally born to work in a land warfare facility, but you chose to do airplanes? God! But yeah, they will also have some will have potentially some traits, like for instance Heinrich Fokker here, who is a helicopter expert. Yes, you heard that right, helicopter expert. Helicopters. Methinks we're getting helicopters. As a result, he's good at researching things related to helicopters, as you might expect, and he gets a negative modifier when he's working on rockets. Now what we really want to know is what kind of projects are available, and they lay it out here fairly basically. Now, people are gonna get upset. There's no need to get upset. They're not taking anything away from the base game. If you do not get this DLC, that's fine. Don't worry. You're not going to lose your nukes. You're not going to lose your flame tanks. Don't worry. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're just going to walk through here first. So they're going to go with mostly historical and maybe could have been historical projects. Think Manhattan Project, obviously. The rocket projects that Germany did, V1, V2. Potentially the V3, which was meant to be an intercontinental ballistic missile. Bit of pie in the sky, but potentially. And then some fantastical projects. Really Google this because they are brilliant. Project Habakkuk, a British ice carrier project. They literally thought, what if we cleave off an iceberg from the north of Canada, put some engines on it, keep it in the cold waters of the north. Now we have a big ass, barely maneuverable mobile airfield. Sounds great. So, okay. Other stuff include early helicopters, the Landkreuzer, which is going to be my chosen vessel. The Ratte project for the German mega tank is one of those fantastical things as well. But they've tried to stay on the feasible side of things. I respect that. I do kind of hope that at some point they hide stuff in here like Die Glocke to get some just the esoteric German madness stuff, because I want my COD zombies just to have that hilarity work out for you. Now there are also less fancy things. Think equipment pieces that were used but require a certain investment to actually get them to work. Super heavy howitzers for one. Parasite mothership aircraft. So think big aircraft with separate drones or smaller aircraft using it as a carrier, or units like the Landkreuzer, early helicopter, or the Habakkuk, the stupid ice carrier we mentioned earlier. Now I am curious what they say a unit. Does that mean like railway artillery, that's a unit on the map and you can move around individually, or is this a type of tank battalion? Is the early helicopter going to be like a support unit for your divisions, like a recon? Or is this just an on-map asset that you have to move around? I really want to know that. And they're also hiding a couple of modules behind the research as well, which sort of makes sense because they didn't just come up with these on the fly. For instance, the flamethrower tank we all know and love is dead. Long live the flamethrower tank. It will now be locked behind special project. I know a lot of you are now going to start crying over this. They're taking my meta unit away. Don't worry. It is going to be available to you whether or not you get the DLC. That is going to be part of the free patch, as the way I'm reading the full dev diary. It's part of the free patch. You'll still be able to get this even if you don't get this DLC. Same with nukes, same with rockets. That's not changing. There's just other stuff that is getting locked out, not the stuff you already had. Again, there's also Earthshaker bombs, which have me curious because I love my Earthshaker rounds and my Basilisk artillery. And anechoic tiles, I had to Google this. These are sound dampening tiles used on the outside of submarines to make them stealthier. Really cool. And these are some examples, and the way I'm reading this is cruiser subs and midget subs are being moved away from being exclusive to a few nations into being a research project. Then these are these anechoic tiles I mentioned. This is probably going to be a stealth boost for your subs. Air independent propulsion. I'm going to guess this is another something for your subs. Also, this is a cool project that not all things are just items to build or to use as modules. This is actually just a mechanic you can now use because you've done the research for it. Underway replenishment. So your navy gets extra range, and based on how much fuel it uses, you use a certain number of convoys to basically ferry fuel to these ships while they're operating in their far-flung regions. This is really cool. I like this. And then some more examples here that we're going to work through. Flamethrower tank. Unfortunately, it's now going to be locked behind the projects. Yeah, I guess now the meta boys are going to have to work on getting this before they can do anything else. I do wonder about these. Military engineering vehicles. Are these bridge layers? Will they be a way to introduce them to a tank battalion or a tank division, for instance, to get you a reduced river crossing penalty? Because that is super fierce on tank divisions. They do not cross rivers very well. Or is this going to be something like an armored or maybe mechanized version of a maintenance company? Both are interesting. Both would be good, but I would love for a bridge layer, to give you the option to cross rivers a little more effectively. And then the Land Cruiser, this is what I want. Not the Toyota, the Land Cruiser. My magnificent battleship on tracks. And then the last one that are kind of hiding, sort of here, Stronghold Network. Now that looks like a massive bunker project, think Maginot Line. That could have interesting implications for certain countries that have to play defensively. Would this make forts more effective? Would it be a new type of fort? I want to know. Can't wait to get my hands on this. And then some more out there ideas. Now this is actually real. This is a little more out there, but they actually built this. The multi-charge large caliber gun. They basically built a massive cannon in Calais to fire shells at London. The London gun. I think they fired it a few times because it was that expensive. It got out of alignment after every shot. It took so long to load and realign. It was horribly wasteful, but we as the player now have the option to go full man in the bunker and build the dumbest projects just because they're cool. Look at that. A multi-charge large caliber gun emplacement that we can fire directly at London. I am going to load Goering into that and shoot him right at London. I will fire that man from a cannon. Now, from earlier examples, you can probably tell that there are a lot of changes to old content with this. We're just going to go over just what is changing. For one, they're adding a bunch of new technologies to the tree, but at the same time, many of those new techs are hidden until you've done the required special projects. Your country essentially doesn't know about how that stuff works or even that it's feasible until you've done the required project. And some previously existing technologies are now hidden at the start and are unlocked via special projects. For instance, V2 rockets. You can't just research them anymore, your rocketry. The Manhattan Project, so your nukes, can't just research them anymore. You have to get them through projects. Other equipment has also been moved. Like I said before, flamethrower tanks, no longer unlocked by Engineer 2. They have their own special research projects. And then there's extra tech mid-game to make those flamethrowers a little bit better as well. Cruiser and midget subs are also no longer available to some select countries. Think Japan and I believe Italy. So they will be available to anyone as long as they do the required research and the required projects. So anyone can do them if they put in the effort. And now they're adding a super heavy railway gun, which means there's now not just an ordinary railway gun, there's also a super heavy railway gun. So that's pretty cool. It's probably the smallest change of the bunch. But now the German railway gun technology is no longer named Dora, or rather the gun you research is no longer named Dora or Schwerer Gustav. No, that's just the 28 centimeter Kanone 5E. And then when you do the super heavy stuff, then you get the Dora. Okay. Somebody thought about that. Cool. Rockets are also changing, and these are actually changing in a profound manner. I don't think this is news to you, but rocketry was useless. Rockets did not work or worked very, very inefficiently. What they're changing in the first place is how you build them. What you did before was you build your rocket site, and that generates up to, I think, 100 rockets of the type that you wanted, or of the, depending on the level that place was, and then you fire them, they're gone, and it keeps generating fresh ones. That's done. You still have the rocket site. Think of it like an air base for rockets in this case, but it doesn't generate anything. It's just the launch emplacement. You have to, like you produce equipment, produce the required rockets. So you build your rocket site, and then you assign military factories to produce the rockets you want. In this case, it looks like we'll have access to surface-to-air missiles, so I will be turning Berlin into Sam City. Basic ballistic missiles, which is really neat. Watch out, London, here I come. And basic guided missiles. You know, I will target that specific bathtub there in London, Churchill, where you're sitting in. Interesting changes to rocketry. Don't know if they're going to be useful, because I think it's going to be a massive investment, as it was historically. It was super expensive to do all those projects, and a lot of it didn't really take off until the 50s and 60s. But big changes, big changes. They're also going to try to make rockets a little bit easier to use. Like before, you had to do a bunch of fiddly stuff like select the rocket site and then target the area you wanted to target and then set the mission you wanted to do. In this case, you have the rocket site. It's you consider it your airbase. You put the rockets in like you would deploy an air wing. You select what rockets you want. Do you want your AA missiles? Do you want your ballistic missiles? And depending on what rockets you have selected, they automatically do one type of mission and only one type of mission. Say the ballistic missiles, you select them, you target an air zone. All it can do, this is a special rocket mission, I assume, but basically all it can do is strategic bombing. Rockets cannot be intercepted once they reach a certain level, so the V1 can be intercepted. A ballistic missile like the V2 cannot be intercepted, so it will just do its mission, burn up because it's an expendable ammunition, and you replenish the losses as you go. You're basically using throwaway rockets to do strategic bombing because your airplanes can't go there because the enemy has too many fighters. At the same time, say you are being strategically bombed and you don't have enough airplanes, but you do have a good supply of surface-to-air missiles. You select your rocket site, you cram that thing full with surface-to-air missiles, you select the zone you want to target. As long as it's in range of the rocket site, the missiles there will do something like an intercept mission only for rockets and try to shoot down enemy. I don't know if they'll shoot down enemy fighters, but I'm very certain they will target enemy bombers. Certainly they will. So that is something I'm looking forward to using. Not sure how useful it's going to be considering how bad rockets are in the current state of the game, but if they manage to make them something useful, I have high hopes for this team. If they can make that useful, they can do anything. And now what most of you have been waiting for, don't worry. Most of this is included in the patch for free, along with some of the special projects. Anything that you had access to before, flame tanks, V1, V2, atomic bombs, the submarines, anything that was in the game before is still in the game. Without the DLC, you can still do the projects. You can still do all of that stuff, and you have access to them through those means instead of doing it the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way is simply going away. They're not taking anything away from you. You get the new stuff. The only thing you're lacking if you choose not to buy the DLC, which is fine, is the new projects. Anything new, anything wild and outlandish, they will be specific. Now, some might also require other things to work. For instance, the flame tank specifically requires no step back, because that is where it was introduced. Only available to people now who have no step back. So if you have no step back and not this DLC, you can still do the project to get your flame tank. If you get this DLC but you don't have no step back, you can do all of those other projects but not the flame tank, for instance. So anything that was introduced in a DLC, you still need that DLC to run it, but you don't need this specific DLC to do any of the new stuff except for brand new things that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So I think that's good. They're not taking anything away from you. I just want to stress that. And that's it for this Dev Diary. I've been rambling. Hope you are as excited for this as I am. I want my land cruisers. I want my stupid stuff. My London gun. I want my insanity. and I am here for it. And if you're interested in picking up this DLC or any other Paradox game, check out my link down below. I get a commission on sales. You get a Steam key at the same price of the Steam store, except this one comes straight from Paradox. I get 12% of the revenue. Everybody wins. You get to have a nice game. Anyway, thanks again.